What is going on, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome to my journey. I am your host, Brian Pickowitz.
And I am Lindsay Rager.
Welcome to episode number 66 of this podcast. And we are going to be continuing on this focused conversation about how to create consistency and be steady by talking about how to master self-discipline today.
Yes, and I'm so sorry for the drum roll. That was a little loud. I hope you guys just appreciate my excitement. So we are talking about mastering self-discipline today. And this is something that we know from our own experience is going to help all of you so much. And so if you are watching with us on the live podcast, let us know what the most challenging part of building discipline is for you. And if you're on the podcast, we'd love to hear your thoughts as well. But we're really excited to dive into this. You're the master of discipline, Bob.
I don't know about master, but I think that I have a lot. I think that discipline is something that so many people see as a toxic relationship that they have to have with themselves, and that's not true. A lot of people who are struggling with discipline feel like they need to go over the top. And so today we want to make discipline simple, and we want to make it something that is seen as valuable for your life. And the reason why it's important to see discipline as valuable to your life is because it will literally give you everything that you want. Because the truth is that when we are not seeing the results that we want in our health, in our business, in our relationships, whatever it is that we want, the only way to get it is to be disciplined about how you go about creating it.
Right, because discipline is just, simply put, there's no emotion behind discipline. Discipline is just by definition, it's a set of systems that you follow to get a result. There's no it needs to be the hardest thing ever. It needs to be X, Y, or Z. Being disciplined means this. It's just a supportive set of systems that you follow that helps you get what you want.
Yeah.
That's literally all it is.
Well, and what I articulate discipline as is the ability to keep your personal relationship with yourself intact. It's the ability to follow through on the responsibilities that you have to yourself. And it's the ability to create actionable steps that you follow through on. And the challenge for some people is they feel like it's like they treat discipline like an elevator. And discipline is not like, okay, let's say right now, as you're listening to this, as you're tuning in, first off, if you have questions, let's hear them on the live stream. If you have questions about discipline, we want to hear from you. Give us some hearts, give us some love. But what we really want to talk about is with discipline, it's not just like if you're not training today and you're someone who I want to start getting in shape, I want to start losing weight, I finally want to break that barrier. You don't just turn on discipline. It's not 0 to 100, which so many people try to do. They're like 0 to 100, I'm going to go from not exercising to exercising 6 days a week. I'm going to go from eating all this crappy food to eating perfect food. And it's this conundrum that they get trapped in because they try to do too many things. And so they go from 0 to 100, and that's why so many people fail. So many people fail because they go from 0 to 100. Discipline is a staircase. So if you're thinking about a staircase, you might be on the 5th floor of discipline, which means that you're already exercising a little bit and you want to do a little bit better. Okay, so then take the next step. Maybe that's, if you're exercising 2 days a week, you exercise 3. I know one of the things I talked about with some people is with the change in routine that they've had a harder time staying consistent with their morning. So people who are usually going to work at 9 are having a harder time getting up at their usual time. And I know for you and I, that was a challenge at first. It's we have slowly though walked it back. So now we're back up at 6 a.m. and we're going to start getting back at 5:30. And it's going to continually walk back because we took the next steps. And so today we want to give you 4 different pieces that will help you with discipline and really give you an actionable plan. But before we do, I want to talk to you, what do you feel like are areas where you used to not have discipline that you do now?
Great question. There's a lot. I think that one thing that comes to mind when we're talking about discipline and everything that you just said is discipline. Creating discipline requires you to take an honest look at yourself. And I don't think that people do that, because it's one thing if you genuinely feel like you are all over the place and you literally have no discipline in any area of your life and you're just floating through the breeze. That's a tough spot to be in, but that's okay. You gotta still see that. But I think most of us, most people that would listen to this podcast have some area of discipline. They go to work every day at the same time, or they sleep for the same amount of hours, or there's some type of systems in place in their life. So it's looking at yourself in a real honest way and saying where do I not have discipline that I want it? And so it's like for me, when areas that I used to not have it were I had no consistency or discipline when it came to what I ate. And that was the biggest area, I think, because there's probably others, but that just comes to mind first because I at least had systems of like how to study in college or always go to work and be disciplined there or still go to the gym like X amount of times per week. But it was like food was really my biggest struggle. So if anybody can resonate, I'm right there with you. But when it comes to discipline with your food, it's like there was no system in place for me when I first started trying to like either get healthy or even before then, just trying to fuel myself appropriately. There was no system in place. I had no idea what to eat. I had no idea what I had to do to be disciplined. Like my idea of discipline was eat vegetables and a little bit of fruit sometimes and no quote unquote junk food. Like that was the only even like concept I have for creating discipline of a system was eat these foods only, nothing else. Therefore, that was the only way I could be disciplined. But now I am disciplined with my food, although it does shift and change.
Which is a different form of discipline.
It's a different form of discipline.
It's not discipline to become a bodybuilder.
Yes.
And that's one thing that's really important. So if you're someone who wants to be more disciplined, discipline doesn't require you to be a Navy SEAL. Like Jocko Willink is a badass Navy SEAL who teaches discipline, talks about discipline. You do not have to wake up at 4 a.m. every day to be disciplined. You do not have to be a competitive bodybuilder to be disciplined with your nutrition. You have to set a criteria that allows you to obtain what you want, and then you have to execute on them. So that is discipline. Discipline for each person is going to require a different set of focus points. It's like, for instance, I think of clients, one of the things that we talk about with our clients is when they're talking about like, oh, I don't have any motivation, or I don't have any discipline. That's I don't have any discipline. It's like, how often do you crush it in your business? How often do you crush it at work? How amazing are you at being a parent? Like these are areas where you have discipline, because someone who doesn't have discipline, like I mean zero discipline, no empathy, no ability to follow through, isn't executing on those points. And so why it's really important is to shift that criteria is because it becomes something you can obtain. But if discipline is just this esoteric, like godlike feature that so many people like want to have but can't, it's like, oh, I have to be like Kobe Bryant in order to be disciplined. I have to be like Michael Jordan or Tom Brady, these extreme athletes who are disciplined. If that's what you're running through your mind as a form of discipline, then you're always going to fall short because you aren't that person. And it's also like, the point is someone who is a disciplined athlete, like why are you comparing yourself to them when it comes to discipline? You're not an athlete. Like you aren't an athlete. It's okay to put someone on a pedestal and like aim for that. Like I love Tom Brady. Tom Brady fires me up because he is just such an embodiment of someone who just is relentless. And his spirit is one that I want to emulate in my work. I am not Tom Brady. I'm not going to go be disciplined to be a quarterback. But there's something that I can attach to my being that is going to be something that gives me a path to move forward. And that's how we need to look at discipline.
Which I feel like is the way that you've always looked, maybe not, but from my perception, the way that you've always looked at discipline is like you see someone who does something great, or you're like, how can I be better? And you strive towards that or what that person does, but you're not trying to be them.
Yeah.
Like, especially when it came to like athletics or even when you started like bodybuilding, like having discipline in those areas, you just like saw how you could do that in your own life instead of trying to be someone else.
Yeah, I think that one thing that's really important in this process is to look at staying in your own lane.
Yeah.
It's like I have a lot of business mentors who are people that I connect with about our business, I ask them questions, but I don't compare myself to them and say like, oh, well, they're doing it exactly this way. I have to go and do it that way because they're not in my shoes. And so when you look at someone who is disciplined, it's important to look at them as someone you want to emulate, not someone you want to be. And emulation is totally different than envy or jealousy, because what it does is like when you emulate something, you're like, wow, like that thing is inspiring. And inspiration is wonderful. Motivation, great. You want it? Boom. figure it out, though, how it translates over to you, and it's a lot easier to implement. So,
yeah. So as we get into it,
yeah. You want to, what?
Do you want to finish your thought? You can finish.
Was there a thought? I thought it was done.
No, I think that was it.
I was going to say, as you're tuning in, if you have questions on discipline, we have some people here on the live. Feel free to chime in, ask questions, and we want to start giving you the 4 points that will help you sustain discipline.
Yes.
I think that. So, were you going to ask me about like my weak points?
Well, I feel like you've always had discipline, so you can correct me if I'm wrong.
All right. So here's the thing. Lindsay forgets this. I used to have zero discipline when it came to keeping a schedule.
Oh,
like
true.
Zero. I couldn't keep a schedule. I hated schedules. I hated planning. I always wanted to shoot things like from the hip and be
so glad you bring that back.
Oh yeah, I had zero discipline, like none. Like it was a mess for me, and I hated it. I hated the idea of having to have a schedule. And Lindsay always had a meticulous schedule. She used Google Calendar. She used everything that she like a book. And like it was like great, and I like would shoot from the hip. At one point, I was running my business. I was training people in person. I was going to college. I was prepping for a bodybuilding competition, and I was playing in a rock and roll band. Like
without a schedule.
Without a schedule,
Insane.
And I was working. I think another job too. Like when I first was in college, like it was
stresses me out to even like think of you doing all this.
And I liked it. I was like, oh yeah, look at me. Like, look at how great it is that I can follow through with things and keep them in my mind. And then things started falling through the cracks, and it just created more anxiety. So it's just like I had no discipline. It took me testing and figuring out what worked for me in order to build the discipline of now. Like my Google Calendar is just like rock solid because I know that that's what gives me freedom. But if I don't have that, like if I don't have, and that's another thing. It's like if you don't have all the failures with discipline, it doesn't matter. Like, it doesn't matter because, like, so many people are like, oh, I want to go from 0 to 100. But it's like, there's times where you have to, like, literally be like, that didn't work.
That is so true because if it's like, you feel like if you don't have anything that tests you, you just, like, get this high feeling of, like, oh, everything's sunshine and rainbows. I'm doing so great. And if you don't even know if you have discipline because nothing's tried to, like, mess with your discipline. You've never been thrown off. And therefore, it's like you can't know, what is the saying? I don't know. You don't appreciate things that are good without the bad times, or something like common like that.
Can't appreciate the sunshine without the rain.
Yeah, there you go. But yeah, no, that's so true. And I think that the last point to make on this like whole discipline intro piece here is discipline does give you freedom, which you just said, and I just want to harp on that for a second because discipline is something that puts you in a cage. Like today, Brian asked me to track all of my hours by the minute, including the tasks done within each minute. And he asked me to do that, and I was like, I don't want to be put in a tiny little box. I don't want to have to go knock off these tasks every freaking minute of every day. That sounds like a cage. That sounds awful. And it's like, no. That gives you the ability to progress and to see where you're not using your time effectively. And that discipline gives you freedom once you go through that process of building the discipline in the first place. And so, discipline gives
I wanted to clarify what Lindsay said. So one of the things that I've seen someone do for a long time, and I've never actually done it until today. I always have a calendar, always keep it consistent. But I wanted to track. I'm going to start tracking my days from a minute-to-minute stamp, or like blocks of minutes on how I'm spending my time. So from the time I wake up, I'm auditing all of my time on a note card front to back. Because there's times where like it's so easy to get distracted on a task and not like, oh, well, I was connecting with a client. Like, okay, well, how much time did I spend with that person? And okay, I'm going to post on social media. Like, how much time did I spend on social media engaging in content? How much time did we spend in our meeting with our assistant coach today? How much time am I spending exercising? How much time am I spending maybe on miscellaneous tasks? And the point is not to have a prison with this task. It's just to audit. Like, and the reason why it's so important to audit, especially for us, like creating content, engaging with people on social media, and being so client focused, it's like I want to know where we're actually spending our time because time is valuable. Time is the only resource that you will never get again. And so when you have a way of looking at it, it gives you a better clearer picture of where you're actually spending your time.
Yes.
And so I think it's so important. So it's something, that I'm testing now.
Yes, and it's also, Brian called me out for this too. Can you read that? But Brian called me out on this too. It's like, if you refuse to try to be disciplined or try to build discipline, you're just afraid of judging your own self. Because if you want to be disciplined, if you want to create consistency and some sense of structure around your eating, and you're like, oh, I just can't. I just tried and I can't, and things keep getting in the way. It's like, okay, but actually put all your effort in and be okay with if you don't get it picked. That's okay. Like, that doesn't mean you're not a disciplined person if you don't get it perfect. So that was the last.
Well, and it's identity too. It's not like, it's just,
true.
Well, I'm not a disciplined person. It's like, well, how many times do you think you're going to be disciplined for telling yourself that? Like, oh, I'm not a motivated person. Oh, I'm not that kind of person. Or don't label yourself. As soon as you start labeling yourself, you're done. You're not going to become that person. Like, as soon as you label yourself as someone who's not a morning person, you're done. Like, you're not waking up in the morning, because every single thing that you do is going to be incongruent with your identity. And people will fight and die for their identity more than they will fight and die for their result. So the more you lean into your identity, the easier you're going to have having it.
It's so true. Because it's so, and we can get into those.
Well, I want to answer Sarah's question because she's here on the live stream. So
okay, last thought.
Okay.
Now I forget it. It's okay.
It's all right. So Sarah said, I think the hardest part about discipline and self-control for me is all of the outside factors. Yo-yo dieting. It has been a struggle of mine because I'll do so well with my nutrition, but a birthday party, holiday, or another a celebration comes up, and I indulge, and I feel like my progress has been ruined. What I would say, Sarah, and I'm going to give you, can I take it first?
Yeah.
So Sarah, the first thing is change your approach, because your nutrition should work in a way that you can have freedom with those events and not feel guilty about it. So I would change the criteria for how you're dieting, because if you're being so restrictive that you cannot have a piece of cake, and if you're being so restrictive and judging yourself so hard that that is the case, then the first thing you have to rework is how you're actually going about your nutrition. So the base point is that you can eat a piece of cake, and it will only cost you, or not cost you, but it will only take like 300 calories out of your nutritional needs for the day. Just plan for it. That's the first thing.
I made a carrot cake this weekend and we ate it.
And
we are fine.
All the carrot cake. I'm still alive. I have not died. It's amazing. The second thing is grace. So what I articulate with discipline is discipline versus grace. So discipline is the ability to follow through on the things that you want to follow through on because of the outcomes that you want. And discipline shows up when you're falling short because of yourself. So like there's days when I don't want to go to the gym. I need discipline because I don't want to go to the gym. I need to show up and do it. The second part of that, though, is grace. So like if you're in a position where you're at like a party and there's literally no food, you haven't eaten anything all day, and you decide to have like a cheeseburger, you don't have to eat the whole thing for one, but there's some different strategies there. But the second part is like give yourself grace and realizing like that balance of like what you needed at the time. Understanding how to eat mindfully, I would say, is number 3, because a lot of times when we're not eating mindfully, we're judging ourselves. So we're like, I had a piece of cake, therefore I'm going to judge myself, and you're not thinking, like you're not actually running you through the situation that you're in.
Right. It's not a rational, real result. It's something that you're projecting, or we all do that. It's something that you're projecting to the future of, I had the cake, or again, or my progress is gone. I'm done. All right. Or I'll start next, or I'll wait till the next birthday. And so I think that's that final piece of that. So I hope that that's helpful.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest piece. But and if you guys have other questions, feel free to comment them on the live stream. We'll get back to them at the end. We're going to have a little piece at the end where we talk about more other questions.
Yes.
And so when we talk about building and sustaining discipline, there's 4 key points. And that's what we want to lean into for the rest of this conversation. And I'm going to let you lead the show on those 4 key points.
Yeah, I think that when it comes to actually building discipline, the first thing, like that is always missing. It's always missing, because when we start to build discipline, we are like, dang it, I'm not disciplined and I want to be. Like, it comes from that tone. It comes from that place of like, I suck. Everything I'm doing sucks. Or like, I can't get what I want. This is awful. Like, and I need to be more disciplined. And you can just feel how like frustrating that is. And when you start from that place, it doesn't typically come with intention, because it's like it's an immediate reaction to what you're doing. So the first point of building discipline is to clarify what happens when you do. You can clarify what happens if you don't, but we're going to focus in on clarify what happens as a result of being disciplined. Like, what is the result that you're seeking by building discipline? It's not eating healthy. Like, the result is not, like, that's not inspiring or exciting. It's like clarifying what is the result of the discipline. Is it feeling healthy for the rest of your life? Is it having control over your emotions so you don't stress eat? Is it having a great body that you feel amazing in? Like, what is the result of you creating discipline? If you can clarify that, you will be at a great starting point to build discipline.
It really comes down to identifying the outcome that you want. Like, what is the outcome? Don't think of the discipline first. Like, don't think, okay, I need to exercise first.
Right.
It's thinking like, I want to lose 30 pounds.
What happens as a result?
Well, but it's not. But it's a little different. It's clarifying what the outcome is. It's not clarifying like what the first piece is. Because like, if you think I need to exercise and you be more disciplined about exercise, you're putting exercise in front of what you want to accomplish as the end result.
Right.
And so what happens is that creates this dichotomy where the working out is the outcome. Working out isn't the outcome. The outcome that you want is to lose 30 pounds. In order to lose 30 pounds, you need to have the discipline.
Right.
And so many times it's challenging because people are like, oh, well, I should eat healthier. If I eat healthier, I'll and it's like they don't have an actual outcome that they're going towards. And so the discipline that they're enacting is discipline for discipline's sake, and that's useless. Like, discipline just for the sake of having discipline is useless when you don't know what you want out of it. Now, the process of this is obviously going to matter, but if you don't have something that is exciting for you to go after, if you can't think of going towards something first, and you don't have that clarity, then every time that you wake up and go to the gym, you're going to be like, I'm just exercising.
Yeah, I have a client she spent 2 years of her life going on runs every single day. Now, I was like, dang, that is incredible. That's like resilience. That is discipline. That's amazing. She's like, no, like, not really. Like, I hated it the whole time. It was never fun for me. And it was because she felt like she had to be disciplined or else, like, she wasn't going to lose any weight. And it was like, it wasn't exciting for her. Like, the process of building the discipline, I mean, it happened, but she didn't keep it forever because she wasn't excited about what she was doing. It wasn't like, oh, I'm becoming an athlete. I am going to run a marathon someday. Like, this is going to be so great. Like, there was no outcome that was exciting for her that she was seeking as a result of the discipline she was putting in and all the work she was putting in. So it's so important, because even if you build discipline and you call yourself disciplined, you're not going to be excited about it unless you actually know, like, where you're going with it, which is, I think, the point of the first one.
Yeah, well, the point is clarify what you want. Like, not clarify what kind of actions you want to take. Exactly. Clarify what you want. It's like, because let's say, for instance, you want to start painting, and you want to build that discipline of creativeness. It's totally, I'm picking the most random thing because everything else is fitness and nutrition.
Okay.
But let's say you want to start creating. Why do you want to do that? Like, what is the benefit of that? Because you wouldn't just paint. Like, you're not just going to go paint.
Maybe, but...
No, you would if you wanted to have joy.
Yes, true.
You would if you wanted to have a creative outlet for your time and your energy. So will come up once you understand what you want. But it's like, why would I'm not just going to go buy a bunch of painting supplies and be like, all right, it's time to paint because I saw Brian talk about it on the live stream. It's like, no, you're not going to do that. You're going to articulate what the end goal is, what the result is that you're seeking, and then you can come back to the present and say, what do I need to do on a daily basis in order to get there? And so once you have that end result, the second point is then to articulate what you're committing to. Mm-hmm. So
what you can commit to.
And that's a whole other piece, but it's like, when you look at it, it's like, how can I get to where I want to be? What do I have to do? How do I have to eat? How do I have to train? How do I have to keep myself together? Because there's so many pieces about this that aren't managed. Like, people want to just look at nutrition and training. And the reason why I believe that our clients do so well is because it is a full lifestyle approach. Yes, your training and nutrition matters, but how are you dealing with stress? How are you dealing with your ability to connect with your family? Because that might be another stressor. Like, how are you dealing with your life in relations to your goals? Because if you do not articulate the commitment that you need to make in all areas, or at least if you don't have a whole picture, then it's easy to train the diet. Anyone can do that. Anyone can do that for a few weeks. Yeah. But the consistency of the lifestyle is what makes it sticky. So the first part, though, of actually starting to craft that discipline is to articulate what you have to commit to. Yeah. And then I'm going to kick it to you for your points. I think that's really important.
Well, it kind of flows into the third. This helps you build the third piece, because it's like, okay, you know what it takes, at least at some capacity. If you want to lean down, you know you need to exercise, and you know you need to eat well, especially if you want to do it in the healthiest possible. You know those are two pieces. Maybe you don't know exactly what that means yet or how much time it takes yet, but you at least know that that is what it's going to take as far as discipline goes. So it's like, from there, it's like, okay, now how much can I actually commit to? Because if you don't ask yourself that question, you're going to try to copy and paste someone else's answer into your life when you don't have the same life. And it does not work. It literally will not work for any period of time. So if you want to master self-discipline, if you want to build discipline and have it be enjoyable for you, you do need to ask yourself what you can commit to before you dive into the action plan component of all of this. Like, before you do anything else, it's like, if I want to be more disciplined with my food, which was something that I was working on a couple weeks ago or in the past, it's like, what can I actually commit to for me right now? What's best for me? It's just to be mindful with eating more whole foods. Like, that's what it is. But for others, it might be tracking their food, and they can commit to doing that every day, and they can commit to meal prepping. Like, so it's what can you commit to, and how much either time or energy can you afford to give?
And when it comes down to it, it's comparing where you're at to yourself. Like, when you talk about articulating that commitment, it's like, what works for you? What do you actually need to be able to do?
Yeah, because if you work 60 hours a week, you're probably not going to be training every single day. I mean, it's possible, but if you're just starting out and you're trying to build this discipline, like, you're probably going to do a couple days of training or something else along those lines.
I love what you said. It's almost like remembering that fitness and wellness should add quality to your life in all areas. It should be something that adds value and not takes it away. So, like, you should be able, I'm going to say remove shit. You will benefit from a training approach that gives you life and energy and confidence, not one that makes you feel guilty about having to miss work or miss time with your family, and not one that takes away from those things. Now, obviously, there's some give and take with time, because everyone has their own time. Okay. But fitness and wellness is something that adds value to your life in all areas. And the way that you get it to add value to your life is you articulate how much time you can actually appropriate to your time.
Exactly.
And then once you have that, so, like, that's the second part. The second part is, it's the first part, clarify what you want. The second part is articulate the amount of commitment that you can make.
Or that's going to take.
And what it's going to require. And then the third thing is build an action plan.
Yes. This is something that everybody misses too. A lot of people miss this part. It's like, oh yeah, I'm just going to start exercising now because I know I can commit and I know I can do it and I know it's going to take exercise, but they don't actually create like a plan or strategy, which means literally writing it down, scheduling it in, creating, okay, for the next 12 weeks, I am going to exercise Mondays 2 or 3 times a week for 45 minutes, and then I'm going to sit down and assess what happened. Like, there's no planning when it comes to this stuff. And it's like, that's one piece that's so important for discipline. Like, it's not, the strategy isn't everything, but it's a huge component of it. Because if you don't actually have something that you're following, which is kind of what you're doing right now when it comes to your running, which you can talk about too. But if you don't have a plan in place of some sort, that's actually, it's going to be very hard to build discipline because life. because life happens. And when meetings come up and kids are jumping in and out of your life and whatever else is going on, because we're all human, you're not just going to find an extra hour somewhere to work out a couple of days a week and get the results you want.
Yeah,
so that's the key.
Well, and I think that's the whole value of a coach too. I mean, so that's what we do is we give people that action plan, we give them that strategy, and then we help hold them accountable to following through. So if you need help with an action plan, then the next step is like where you also go for that information. Do not go to your friend Nancy who's training in CrossFit 6 days a week or 5 days a week and expect that because Nancy does that and gets progress, that you're going to do that and see the same amount of progress. It's just not going to happen. And so you need to make sure that your action plan is actionable for your life. Mm-hmm. It's like something that is built and designed around you with thinking of like everything you can commit to. Because like I have some clients who are badass CEOs who have a company of 60 plus employees, 100 employees, multiple thousand employees. Excuse me. And their needs are totally different than some of my clients who are working in their careers and they have a family. Totally different lifestyles, totally different responsibilities. Excuse me. And it's not that one is better than the other. It's just that one program needs to look totally different than the other program. Mm-hmm. It's like some of your women clients that you work with. It's like their needs are going to be different from some of the other clients' needs. And it's understanding how that action plan needs to be set up around your life.
Yes.
I think that's so important to remember. It's like your needs are not his needs, and I think it's a balance of knowing that thing.
Yeah, and that's pretty much the third point is like the action plan. We all know now, after listening to this, you need to have one at some capacity. And then the last part of this that is the most exciting to me.
I think it's exciting.
I mean, it has the word excitement in it, so I guess that's a silly way to put it. But after you have gone through these steps and you are starting to create discipline, you're now about to take action because you have your plan in place, you know what you're doing. You got to create excitement around it. And this is anything when it comes to discipline. This is not just like go like your training, your fitness, whatever. It's literally anything that you want to build discipline in. And that can come in a variety of ways. And I'll use a super simple example. When I'm trying to teach a client how to improve their stress management, I help them develop the discipline of a morning routine. We both do. Help them develop a discipline of a morning routine. That means I give them a baseline of I want you to take 5 deep breaths and I want you to write intentions. Now, to make this exciting, because all my clients are female, go get a beautiful notebook and a beautiful pen and put it next to your dresser and have a cup of coffee and enjoy the process. Like, make it exciting. And that comes with anything regarding habits. But it's like create excitement around what you're about to do. And it will be so much more enjoyable in the process. I don't know if you resonate because you're usually just like...
Well, you have to create excitement in some way.
Whatever way is your way, yes.
Meaning, no, you're 100% right. Like, you have to attach something positive to it. And you have to realize that following through is its own piece of excitement. Mm. It's like waking up and doing the workout when you didn't want to. That's exciting.
It is.
And it's celebrating those wins because if you want to use discipline to be in better health, you want to be in better health because you want to have more confidence. You want to have more confidence because you want to be a better leader. You want to be a better leader because you want to show up more powerfully for your coworkers, for your employees, for those who are around you. And that's not just going to happen overnight. But you have to attach the benefit of following through to everything else that you want. Because it's like this. Like, this is my piece of paper. My piece of paper with literally every detail of what I'm doing. I'm going to get off here and write down that I was on a podcast for an hour or whatever amount of time. That is going to give me excitement because now I get to have a structure for my day. I get to see where things need to be articulated. I get excited by that. Like, I get excited. I'm going to go on a run, a 12-mile run today. I get excited not because I'm going for a 12-mile run. I get excited because I'm following through. And the follow-through is more exciting to me than the actual action. And obviously there's pieces of that like ebb and flow. Like, I love getting on a coaching call because I literally love connecting with that client. Mm. Now, the internal part of that is the excitement of what I receive and get to give. But there's so many different aspects of discipline that if you want to have an amazing life, it's a great quote. So, and this is like, so here's like where Lindsay and I are going to part ways, but we're going to say the same thing. Like, I love doing things that don't always feel good. I love and Lindsay probably gets the brunt of this because I'm like, you need to start doing these things. And she's like, no, I don't want to. But like, I take a cold shower every morning. I do a cold plunge. I started running. I ran a marathon last year without prepping for it because I was like, I want to do this. Like, everything that I love is difficult, because without difficult challenges in your way, it's like the quote is, doing things that are easy will lead to an easy life. An easy life leads to a hard life. And if you aren't showing up with the power that you have, then you're never going to see the results that you want. And that doesn't mean you have to be over the top. Like, a hard thing for you might be just waking up 5 minutes earlier.
Yes.
A hard thing, like, and that's where like grace is so important, because a hard thing is not looking at me just saying that and hearing me say that as like me at my like amount of times failing in this process, but hearing it as yourself. Like, what is hard for you? What is hard for you right now, and how can you embrace that? And you embrace it by seeing that it's going to give you something positive out of the other end. Because nothing about this is going to be easy. Mm-hmm. And it's okay. It's literally okay that it's going to suck. It's okay that you're going to feel challenged. It's okay that there's going to be times where you want to quit. There's going to be so many mistakes that you made. Like, I'm a multifaceted individual, and we all are. But like, for me, I look at my brain in different aspects. I'm an entrepreneur who's building a fitness company, who loves coaching clients, who is also an athlete. It's a weird dichotomy. In all those areas, I have had to learn things that were painful. It's like my relationship. Like, we're sitting here. Like, 2 years ago, we wouldn't have been able to do this. And like, it would have been uncomfortable because each one of us had our own things to work through. And that's okay. And a hard part about discipline is not judging yourself for not having discipline right now. Mm. It's like, if you're listening to this and you're watching this, and there's an area in your life that you want to expand in, you will benefit from having discipline in that area. I need to have more discipline to call my parents. I need to have more discipline to call my loved ones. I need to have more discipline to build better relationships sometimes. Like my friends, I need to make sure that I'm fostering those relationships. That's okay. Like, these are the different aspects, I think, that make it exciting, because you stop judging yourself for not being perfect.
So good. It's like, my brain went so many different ways while you were doing that. I was like, oh, you could say this and that and the other thing. But no, I completely agree. And one thing that did come to mind that's kind of on a different note, just because your excitement dies doesn't mean you can't cultivate it again. Because when things get hard, you're probably not going to feel excited in that moment to complete whatever you're working on. But it's remembering that if you can cultivate that excitement, and what my client Brittany always says is she like comes back to her why whenever she's feeling like she's off, or like things are kind of going in the direction she doesn't want to go. She comes back to her why. She comes back to what got her excited in the first place. And anybody can do that at literally any time. And that is such a powerful choice to make. Because what I've observed is that when you are excited about what you're doing, you don't even feel remotely tempted to do the opposite. Because those two feelings, those two like experiences do not happen at the same time. Like, I am so excited to be eating Whole Foods today that like the M&Ms sitting in the fridge literally aren't tempting me whatsoever right now. Like, I don't even want them.
I wish it was the same for both of us.
I know, but if you are so attached to it and why you're doing it, the things that have tempted you in the past within that area will not tempt you at the same moment that you were excited. Mm-hmm. So the more often that you can get excited about what you're doing, the more likely it will be that you will get to your success point or to your result that you're looking for. So that's a thought.
Yeah, I think there's so many different pieces. Like, I don't know. I just think that each one of us has to realize like what's hard for us.
Yes, I think that's a good note.
I need to have discipline with meditation, because for me, I have a hard time managing my emotions, and I don't want to be in a position where I don't manage my emotions. So I meditate every day.
Yep.
And that doesn't mean anything. It just means that it gives me something that I'm seeking.
Yeah.
And that's a discipline that you can build. And so
I think
the main point is just realizing, clarify, like the 4 steps is clarify the result that you want, articulate what you're going to have, and articulate what you can commit to, create an action plan, and create excitement.
Yes. And in that excitement process, last note, you can use that step to get support. If support is something that you need, meaning like telling a friend, if you do have a coach, like that'll be exciting. But if you have but if you want support, that's the area to build it in. You don't go to somebody to ignite your motivation initially. You create it within yourself, and then you get support with your journey that you've already committed to.
It's like once you realize that there's a spark, like if there's something inside you that is a spark, yes, you might need someone to help you cultivate that. Like you might need to tap in. It's like I was talking today about how to break through a barrier. Like if you have a mental barrier, how do you break through that? Like how do you break through that wall inside your mind that's stopping you from having what you want? There's 4 key steps. The first one is find the weak point in the wall. So where is that failure that you've had in the past wrong? Where do you have evidence that you do have discipline? Okay, that's your first point. Hold on to that belief. The second point is get momentum. So change your state. Start working on it. Get excited. Start moving your body. Like motion creates emotion. So if you have that thought like, hey, I am disciplined here. It's like, okay, how can you change your state? Can you call someone? Can you put on music? Can you go for a run? Can you just start like creating massive amounts of energy in your life? Then find someone who can help you. So the point that I was thinking of this morning as I was journaling this, it's like the Lord of the Rings. There's this part in the Lord of the Rings, Twin Towers, where what are they called? Orcs are breaking down the wall. They're breaking down the wall, and they have this massive, massive tree. And they're breaking into the wall. And there's like hundreds of them that are pushing through. Because if you want to break through the wall, attack the weak point, get momentum, and run as hard as you can. But you need support, you need some help. And that comes down to whose content are you listening to? Are you reading? Are you listening to podcasts? Are you working with a coach? Do you have people in your life who support you? And then the people who are going to be pulling you back the other way, you need to cut ties with them. And then the fourth thing is just be consistent, because if you keep banging on the wall, keep hitting on the wall, and you have the right support, you'll get through it. But it's seeing the full picture as like you don't have to be there right now. If you're struggling with discipline in an area, do not defeat yourself. Just realize that you can improve by changing it, and that's how you get through it. Absolutely. So if you have questions right now, feel free to comment them on the live stream. I think we'll be answering them. But any common challenges, any questions or any points that you wanted to bring up?
I think that we hit on a lot of the biggest challenges that people have. Any of you guys on the live stream or in the future on the podcast when you're listening, if you have any challenges that come up, because I think the biggest challenges are just like, well, I've lost momentum. I just like something came in and knocked me down and like da 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 da. And I think that it's not being like, oh well, I just make so many excuses and that's what happened. And it's like no, you're probably a very disciplined and resilient person because you have the capacity to be so and to do so. But it's just what we said earlier. You don't know you're disciplined until something comes and sweeps you off your feet and it knocks the wind out of you, whatever term you want to say. But then you decide to stand back up and keep going. And it's like, that's a disciplined person. Just because you fell off doesn't mean that you're not a disciplined person. So I think that's probably the biggest challenge. And then just diving in and not worrying about failing or missing a day or judging yourself because you failed or missed a day. It's like, yeah, so what? You're still disciplined. So I think that those are the 2 biggest key points. But other than that, I think everything you said about discipline is beautiful. I think it is.
I think what you said
very likely very helpful.
And so
anyway.
Yes. So any closing thoughts?
That's it for me. I think that everybody has. I think you can, no matter where you're at, no matter how disciplined you consider yourself to be or not to be, you can take something from this podcast and go apply it. So take a moment. Jim Quick does this in his podcast. It's like, take a moment, and if you're watching on the live stream, it's not like screenshot this, but it's take a moment and ask yourself, area did they just talk about that I need to work on for myself? And what is one thing that I can do to start acting on that one realization? From there, you will make progress. So it's just like, take that moment. That's all I ask of anybody listening, is take that moment right now to ask yourself where you need to work and what realization you've had and how you can actually start improving in that area.
Love it. And if this podcast resonates with you, screenshot this on your Apple iTunes, like your Apple Podcasts, I'm sorry, or Spotify, wherever you're listening to. And one of the things that we really value is connecting with you. So post it on your story on Instagram and tag us so that we can connect with you and just hear how this resonated with you and what you found most valuable. But that is it. That is all. Thank you all for being here. Thank you for tuning in. And thank you for being a part of this journey. We're grateful for each one of you. We hope that you're staying steady and grounded during this time. And more than anything, just remember that discipline in one area leads to discipline in other areas. And this should be something that gives you life. It should be something that takes away life. And it should be something that you can embrace as a part of becoming more each step of the way. I'm Brian Pickwitz.
I'm Lindsay Rago.
Thank you for being a part of our journey. And just remember to continue to be a light.
Inspire others to believe in you.
Cheers.